The hug was too short. That was the first thing. She always lingered. Even when we were off. Even after arguments. There was always a few extra seconds. Like her body didn't want to let go just yet. But this time it was fast. Like a handshake in disguise. The second thing? She didn't ask about the dog. She always asked about the dog. Did she eat? Did she poop weird? Did she sleep in my pillow again? This time, she just stepped over Luna's tail like it wasn't even there, walked straight into the kitchen, and opened the fridge. For water, I thought. But no. She pulled out white wine. At 10:47 a.m. Isn't it a little early? I asked. She didn't answer. Just poured, sipped, then sat at the table like nothing was strange. This was 30 minutes after she got back from her work trip. I stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching her stir the ice in her glass. I felt like I was staring at someone pretending to be her. Same voice, same hands, but too calm, too polished, like a dress rehearsal version of the woman I married. Then I noticed it. She still had her wedding ring on, but on the wrong hand. You flipped it, I said. She looked up mid-sip. Huh. I nodded at her hand. Oh, that's funny, she said, twisting it back with a laugh that didn't land. Guess I was tired. But her hand was shaking when she did it. She got a call 15 minutes later. Unknown number. She sent it to voicemail so quickly I didn't even hear the ringtone. I started the laundry after that. Grabbed her suitcase like I always do. She didn't protest. That should have been a third red flag. She hates when I touch her luggage. You'll ruin how I pack, she always says. But not today. Today, she let me unzip it without a word. And inside, under a mess of wrinkled shirts and conference swag, I found the hotel receipt. From San Diego. She told me she was in Denver. I sat on the edge of the bed holding the crumpled hotel receipt like it was a detonator. My thumb was pressed against the top corner, smoothing it over and over again, as if the ink might vanish if I rubbed long enough. But there it was, La Vela Suites, San Diego. 4 nights. 1 room. King bed. No mention of a conference, no company billing address, and no additional guests. Just her name. Hers alone. It didn't make sense, and that's exactly what made it make perfect sense. When I walked back into the kitchen, she was scrolling on her phone, still sipping wine like we were on vacation. She looked up and smiled. That lazy, fake smile people give when they know they're being watched. I held up the receipt like a dirty tissue. You weren't in Denver, I said. There was a pause. A long one. Long enough that I could hear the tick of the wall clock behind her. Then she blinked slowly and said, What? I walked forward and dropped the paper in front of her. Her eyes scanned it quickly, but her face didn't change. No surprise. No gasp. Just stillness. You were in San Diego, I said again. This was in your suitcase. She stared at the receipt for another moment, then folded it in half. I can explain. That's when I laughed. I shouldn't have, but it came out without warning. A weird, bitter bark of a laugh. The kind that feels like your throat forgot what crying and choking are supposed to be, so it picked something in between. You can explain? I repeated. Great. Then explain. She pushed the wine glass aside. I was going to tell you. Eventually. It's not what you think. No? Because I'm thinking you lied to me, told me you were in another state, and then came home wearing a new cardigan and someone else's cologne. Her eyes flinched. I saw it. A flicker, barely there, but it was enough. She stood up, pushed in her chair like we were done with dinner. And then she said something that cracked the whole room in half. It wasn't just San Diego. I didn't move. I couldn't. My body was ice. My jaw locked, but not from anger, from disbelief. Like she'd just admitted to drowning a cat or robbing a church. What did you say? I asked, barely a whisper. She didn't repeat it. Instead, she walked into the living room and sat on the couch, legs tucked beneath her like we were settling in to watch a movie. I followed like I was underwater. Every step felt slow, disconnected, like my brain was buffering. Gerald, she said softly, finally using my name. I didn't plan for it to happen like this. It started months ago. I didn't mean for it to. And it wasn't about you. I stood across from her. I couldn't sit. My knees were shaking, and I didn't trust the couch to hold me. How many? I asked. What? How many people? She didn't answer right away. She looked down at her wine, swirled it like she was checking the legs on a Pinot Grigio. Then she said, It's not a number thing. It was about connection. Feeling seen. Feeling something. My mouth went dry. Connection. That's the word she used to describe slipping out of our marriage and into hotel beds. You think I don't feel invisible? I snapped. You think I don't sit at that table every night trying to pull words out of you like teeth? I begged you to go to therapy. I begged you. I didn't want therapy, she said. I wanted to feel alive. And that was it. That was the moment I realized I was no longer her husband. I was just the mirror she avoided. The reminder of her choices. Her compromises. Her comfort zone. I left the room. I couldn't breathe. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Because I still hadn't told her what I found on her laptop. I didn't go for her laptop with any kind of plan in mind. It wasn't revenge or strategy. It was compulsion. My hands moved without permission, like my body decided my heart wasn't reliable anymore. She had left it open on the dining room table, lid half shut, still humming with heat from whatever she'd last worked on. I opened it fully and sat down slowly, as if I were about to commit a crime I didn't know how to define. Maybe I was. She didn't follow me into the room. I don't know if she thought I wouldn't look, or if she wanted me to. She was too calm. Not smug, just resolved. Like she was already 10 steps past this moment. Like she'd burned the bridge and started building a boat from the ashes. The desktop was clean. Too clean. Just 2 folders. Work and miscellaneous. I opened work first, out of habit. Event schedules. Venue PDFs. Invoices. Nothing strange. Then I clicked on miscellaneous. My stomach twisted when I did. It was such an unassuming name. The kind you give to a folder when you don't want anyone to ask questions. It was like writing nothing to see here in bold Sharpie on a safe. There were subfolders inside. Dates. All dates. Each one formatted like this. 2024-02_SD. 2024-04_Vegas. 2024-06_MPLS. The earliest one was from over a year ago. My vision blurred for a second. I blinked, focused, and opened the first folder. Inside, photos. Photos of her. But not selfies. Not posed. These were taken by someone else. In bed. In mirrors. Hotel rooms. Some of them were just of her face, close up, with eyes closed and a faint, unfamiliar smile. In others, she was wearing clothes I'd never seen. Lingerie that looked expensive, like she hadn't bought it at all. Like it had been gifted. Some photos had men's hands in the frame. Just the hands. Holding her waist. Her chin. One showed a tattooed arm I didn't recognize trailing across her thigh. The lighting was low. Intimate. Cinematic in a way that made my skin crawl. I backed out of that folder and clicked on a video file in the next one. It was muted when it opened. No sound. Just moving lips. Hers and someone else's. I couldn't see his face. The camera angle was off. But I could see hers. The way she looked at him. The way she laughed into his neck and bit her lower lip like she was 19 again. She hadn't looked at me like that in years. I slammed the laptop shut. Hard enough that the fork on the table jumped. I stood there, hands on the back of the chair, trying to remember how to breathe. My head felt like it was filling with static. I could hear my pulse in my ears. My legs were shaking so badly I had to sit again before I collapsed. This wasn't just cheating. This was documented. Curated. Like she was collecting memories she never planned to share with me. A secret life recorded in folders named after cities she never told me she visited. And that's when the worst thought hit me. What if one of those men wasn't a stranger? What if I knew him? I opened the laptop again, this time faster, more erratic. I opened the most recent folder, 2025-07_LA. The trip she just came back from. The one she claimed was Denver. Inside, 4 videos, 3 images, and 1 audio file. I played the audio. Just voices. Her voice. A man's voice. They were laughing about something I couldn't catch. Then she said a name. "Tell me again what you said." "Marcus," she giggled. "Marcus. My coworker. My only real friend. The man who came to our house for barbecue 3 weeks ago. Who brought that stupid bottle of peach bourbon I pretended to like. Who helped me rewire the backyard lights while she made drinks inside." I dropped the laptop. Literally dropped it. It hit the floor with a hollow thud. She came rushing in at the sound, finally snapping out of whatever fog she'd been floating in. "What did you open?" she asked, too fast. I didn't answer. She knew. She knew what I found, and in that second, I saw it in her eyes, fear. Not regret. Not guilt. Fear. And that scared me more than everything else combined. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't reach for me. She didn't cry, scream, beg, or deny anything. She just stood there, motionless, hands slightly apart, as if preparing to catch something that was about to fall. Maybe me. Maybe her lie. Maybe the entire life we'd built like a rickety shed in a windstorm. The silence between us was heavy, suffocating. I wanted to fill it with something. A question, a yell, a chair through the wall, but my throat was locked. I couldn't speak. All I could do was stare at her, blinking through the absolute disbelief that the woman I'd married, the woman who once cried over a dead squirrel on the side of the road, had hidden this level of betrayal with the calm of a chess master. Then, finally, she said something. But it wasn't "I'm sorry." It wasn't "It's not what you think." It wasn't even "I can explain." It was worse. She said, "I didn't want you to find it like this." Like this? That's what broke me. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because I was 2 seconds from either bursting into tears or vomiting, and my body picked the third option. I stood there, half hysterical, half numb, the pieces of my understanding falling out of place all at once. "You didn't want me to find it like this?" I repeated. "What does that even mean? You were going to show me eventually? Sit me down one evening over pasta and let me browse your personal betrayal scrapbook while you poured Merlot?" She exhaled. "No, I was trying to figure out the right way to end things." My heart didn't drop. It stopped. "End things," I said. "You were going to leave me?" She nodded, slow. I was waiting for the right moment. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After everything, after months, maybe years, of lies and secret folders, and San Diego and Marcus and God knows who else, she was the one planning the exit. Like I was the final item on some checklist titled escape plan. "You were going to leave me," I said again, trying to make the words feel real. For him, a pause, a flicker of hesitation. Then, "I don't know." "You don't know? Which one? Marcus? Rick? The one with the dragon tattoo? The guy from Minneapolis?" She didn't flinch. It wasn't about choosing one person. I didn't want to be chosen anymore. I didn't want to be married. It hit me in a way that no affair ever could. Because what she was saying wasn't "I want someone else." It was "I don't want you." Not you, the husband. Not you, the person who stayed. Not you who tried. She said she felt like she was disappearing. That every year with me was like sinking deeper into wet cement. That the version of herself she became in this house, in this marriage, was someone she didn't recognize. She said she didn't cheat for thrills. She cheated because it was the only time she felt awake. And then, without warning, she walked past me, picked up the laptop, and opened another folder. "You should see this," she said. I wanted to scream at her. I wanted to smash the screen over the table. But I followed. Because some part of me, the broken, pathetic part that still needed closure, couldn't look away. She opened a folder named Drafts. Inside were PDFs, dozens. Letters. To me. Typed and dated. Some were weeks old. Some over a year. Some were a single page. Others were 5 or 6 paragraphs of thoughts, frustrations, breakdowns, apologies that never left her hard drive. I read one at random. "I dream about walking away, but then I picture him on the porch, fixing the bird feeder, and I can't do it. So I stay. And then I hate myself more." Another. "He notices when I cut my hair, but not when I'm unraveling. He says he loves me, but he doesn't see me. I feel like a photograph in a frame he dusts once a week." My knees went soft. I sat down without meaning to. Because as much as I hated her in that moment, as much as I wanted to throw every word back in her face and tell her she was selfish and cruel and heartless, somewhere deep in my gut, I knew what she wrote wasn't entirely wrong. I had missed things. I had drifted. I didn't cheat, didn't lie, but I retreated. Into work, into silence, into comfort. And she had been sinking long before she ever stepped into another man's hotel room. But none of that justified what she did. I looked up at her and said, "You buried me while I was still breathing." And she cried for the first time. But it didn't move me. Not anymore. Because I still hadn't told her what I did while she was gone. While she was drinking cocktails by the ocean and journaling her guilt in password-protected PDFs, I wasn't sitting around twiddling my thumbs and watering plants. I wasn't crying into the couch cushions like some abandoned sitcom husband. I knew something was wrong. I didn't have proof. Not yet, but I had the feeling. That cold, shifting gut sensation that something under the surface is alive and slithering. She changed. Little things, at first. Her silence started lasting longer. Her phone face down at dinner. laughing at texts she wouldn't explain, coming to bed already asleep. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I started documenting her. A month ago, I installed a keylogger on her laptop. Yeah, I know how that sounds. I'm not proud of it. It felt dirty. It felt like spying. But what else was I supposed to do when every time I asked her, "Is something going on?" she said I was paranoid, that I was projecting, that maybe I should go to therapy. She turned my gut instincts into guilt. So I did what I had to do. And what I found wasn't just infidelity. It was orchestration. She was planning her exit like a covert operation, messaging friends about how to transfer bank funds without triggering alerts, asking a divorce attorney, under her maiden name, how to set up a private P.O. box for correspondence. She had downloaded templates for custody arrangements, which made no sense because we don't have kids. But that wasn't the worst of it. There were emails between her and Marcus. And not the flirty miss you already kind. These were spreadsheets. She was helping him scam his own company. Marcus works in financial systems, and I couldn't believe what I was reading. Corinne, my wife, the woman who once cried over a bad Yelp review, was actively reviewing balance sheets for a scheme to falsify vendor payouts. She wasn't just cheating with him. She was collaborating with him. Professionally. Illegally. And that's when it clicked. The folder names. The dated subfolders. They weren't just memories. They were logs. Evidence. This wasn't some reckless affair. It was a pattern. Documented. Archived. Digitally timestamped. She was collecting proof. But for who? To use against Marcus later? To protect herself? Or to blackmail him? The night before she came home, I copied everything. All of it. Every folder. Every email. I didn't know what I was going to do with it yet. Turn her in? Confront Marcus? Burn it and walk away? But now, sitting across from her in the hollow wreckage of our living room, with her tears drying into her cheeks and her mouth twisted into an apology she didn't know how to deliver, I knew what I had to say. "I know about Marcus," I said flatly. Her breath caught. I saw it. Her entire body stilled, like a deer hearing the click of a safety being switched off in the forest. "I know what you two have been doing," I added. "Not just the hotel crap. The money, the emails, the fake vendors, the invoices. I have it all." She blinked. Once. Twice. Then she looked away. "You don't understand." "No," I cut her off. "Don't you dare insult me again by assuming I'm stupid. I've read every word. I've watched every screen recording, every download. You were planning more than an affair, Corinne. You were planning a future. Without me. With him. But first, you were going to help him rip off a company and launder the cash into a new life." She didn't deny it. Instead, she whispered something so absurd, so deeply twisted, I almost thought I misheard her. I was going to cut him out too. I stared at her, stunned. "I knew Marcus wouldn't stay loyal," she said, almost too calmly. "Men like him never do. The plan was to help him get what he wanted, then disappear. I had an account. Offshore. He didn't know about it." I couldn't breathe. "Jesus Christ," I muttered. "You were playing all of us." Now her eyes filled again. But I didn't trust those tears anymore. They felt like a tool, something she used to manage the room. We sat there in a silence so loud I could hear the clock ticking again. Just like the night she came back with that fake smile and an unfamiliar perfume. And that's when I decided I wasn't just going to leave. I was going to make sure they both paid. But not the way you think. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a minute. I laid in bed with the ceiling fan spinning above me like a slow, quiet clock, counting rotations instead of hours. She had gone to the guest room. Her choice, not mine, and shut the door like it would protect her from the weight of everything unraveling between us. I could still smell her shampoo on the pillow. I hated that. I hated that there were parts of her still living in the fabric of our home. Around 4 a.m., I got up, went to the garage, and pulled down the old fireproof box from the top shelf, the one we used to keep our passports, old tax documents, and, for some reason, a love letter she wrote me the day before our wedding. It was still in there. I didn't read it. I couldn't. I just set it aside, dug to the bottom, and pulled out the spare flash drive I bought years ago to back up family photos. Instead, I filled it with betrayal. Emails, folder trees, financial documents, all the footage. I compressed it, encrypted it, labeled it something stupid like workshop_templates, and uploaded a second copy to a cloud folder under a different name. Then I emailed that folder's access to a law firm in Scottsdale, one that specializes in whistleblower defense. I didn't send a note. Not yet. But I was preparing the ground. This wasn't going to be some violent revenge story. No torched clothes. No shouting matches. No dramatic walkouts. No. What I was planning required patience. And timing. It needed a level of detachment that I didn't know I had in me until now. But when someone burns your marriage down to the studs, when they stand in your living room and confess to not just cheating, but criminal conspiracy and emotional abandonment, something inside you hardens. Cold becomes default. And here's where things got weird. The next day, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to. The voice on the other end was a woman. Confident. Sharp. She asked if I was Gerald Monroe. I said yes, cautiously. She introduced herself as Danica Wells, an internal fraud investigator with Marcus's company. My pulse quickened. I stepped out onto the back porch, shut the door behind me, and asked her how she got my number. We've been looking into Marcus Harper for a while, she said. We have reason to believe he's been falsifying vendor payouts with the help of external collaborators. Your name came up. I stopped breathing. I'm not involved, I said immediately. He's been having an affair with my wife. That's how I'm connected. She's the one helping him. I have proof. There was a pause on her end. That's what we were hoping you'd say, she replied. We already suspected your wife, but we didn't have access to her systems. We were working on a subpoena. If you're willing to cooperate voluntarily, you could save us months of legwork and potentially secure whistleblower protection for yourself. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from adrenaline. Because in that moment, I realized something. They already knew. This whole time, while I was unraveling my life thread by thread, someone else had been watching the same mess from a different angle. And now our stories were intersecting. I told her I had files. She gave me a secure upload portal. I spent the rest of the day sending everything, piece by piece, carefully organized, with notes. By the time I was done, I had no idea if I'd just saved my own skin or lit the fuse on a bomb that was going to level everything. Corinne didn't know any of this. She spent the day acting like a ghost. She cleaned the kitchen, watered plants, answered a few work calls. She didn't ask what I was doing, and I didn't volunteer. There was a strange, mutual silence between us, the kind that feels like a ceasefire more than a truce. That night, I asked her one question. If you hadn't gotten caught, would you have ever told me? She didn't even pretend to hesitate. No, she said. And that was the most honest thing she'd said since she walked back through the door. The next morning, someone knocked on the door at 7:42 a.m. It wasn't a package. It wasn't the neighbor. It wasn't Marcus. It was a man in a gray blazer with a badge and a folder. And what he handed me would change the entire story again. The man at the door introduced himself as Special Agent Laramie, Internal Crimes Division, part of a federal financial crimes task force. His tone was polite, but surgical, like he didn't have time for small talk, and neither did I. I let him in. He stepped across the threshold like he was entering a crime scene already half-wiped clean. He held a folder under one arm, and the second we were seated, he placed it on the table between us without opening it. I'm not here to arrest you, he said. And I'm not here for your wife. I raised an eyebrow. Then why are you here? He tapped the folder once with 2 fingers, like it was a detonator. I think you're going to want to see what's in here. But before I show you, I need to make something clear. We've been watching Marcus Harper for over a year. You weren't on our radar. Your wife was peripheral. But what we didn't know, until recently, was that there's someone else pulling strings behind both of them. He flipped open the folder and slid a printed page toward me. I looked down. It was a grainy surveillance photo. A man, middle-aged, white, bearded, wearing a ball cap and sunglasses. I didn't recognize him. Not at first. Then Agent Laramie said the name, and I swear I stopped breathing for a full 5 seconds. Graham Dietz. That name hadn't been spoken in my house for 6 years. Not since Corinne told me, in a hushed, broken voice, about her first serious boyfriend. The one who controlled her, isolated her from her friends, pushed her into therapy she didn't want, and made her delete her entire social media history after a jealous fit. She told me he'd stalked her after she left, that he'd shown up at her old job once, that he was the reason she never posted her location online. She told me he moved out of state, changed his number, disappeared, and I believed her. Turns out, not only was Graham not gone, he was at the center of the entire fraud investigation. Agent Laramie continued. We believe Mr. Dietz is using intermediaries, primarily Marcus, to run a shell vendor operation across multiple platforms. Your wife, whether knowingly or not, was being manipulated by someone with a long history of psychological coercion and financial exploitation. I looked back down at the photo. The resolution was bad, but his posture, it hit me. I'd seen this man before. Not in person. In one of Corinne's folders, the earlier ones, where she labeled everything with dates. There was a blurred background figure in a parking lot. I thought nothing of it. A coincidence. A stranger. Now, I realized it wasn't coincidence. It was surveillance. He had never stopped watching her. She didn't mention him, I said slowly. Not once. Not since we got married. She may not have known it was him. Or maybe she did and didn't want to involve you, Laramie replied. But here's where it gets more complicated. We have reason to believe Corinne's initial involvement with Marcus wasn't sexual at all. It was recruitment. My mouth went dry. You're telling me Marcus didn't seduce her? She pulled him in. Under Graham's direction. Possibly under threat. Possibly willingly. That part we don't fully understand yet. But your wife is not just a bystander. And she's not just a victim either. We think she's caught in something she can't untangle herself from. I leaned back, trying to comprehend the scale of what I was hearing. My wife hadn't just betrayed me for excitement. She hadn't just cheated for connection. She had been used. Possibly groomed again. Or maybe she knew and went along with it anyway. And then I remembered something. The audio file. From the most recent folder. The one where she laughed and said, "Tell me again what you said, Marcus." That file had a timestamp. And it was 6 hours before she texted me. "Landing soon. Can't wait to see you, Yellowheart." So she had recorded that voice memo. She had giggled into someone else's neck or whispered sweet nothings into a phone and then turned around and messaged me like nothing had happened. I turned back to Laramie. "So what now?" He folded his hands. "You help us. Quietly. You act like you know nothing more than what you already said. We'll use what you gave us. We'll build from it. And when we move, it'll be fast and final." And Corinne. His jaw tightened. Depends how deep she is. Later that night, Corinne made dinner. Spaghetti, salad, garlic bread. Like she was trying to play house one more time. We didn't speak much. She asked how my day was. I said busy. She nodded. I watched her sprinkle Parmesan over the pasta like nothing in her world was collapsing. She still didn't know what I knew. She didn't know about Agent Laramie. She didn't know that Graham Dietz, the man she told me she escaped, was behind the entire thing. But soon, she would. And I had one last card to play. 3 days later, the raid happened. I wasn't there to see it. I was already gone. Agent Laramie kept his word. He'd told me it would be fast, and it was. On a quiet Wednesday morning, while Corinne was out meeting a vendor, which, by then, we both knew was code for something else entirely, the task force swept through 2 offices and 3 apartments tied to the operation. Marcus was arrested outside a co-working space in West Phoenix. Another man, someone I didn't recognize, was picked up at the airport. And Corinne, she was taken from a sidewalk cafe less than a mile from our house. I found out because Laramie texted me a single word. Clean. I should have felt triumphant. I should have jumped or cried or screamed into the sky. But instead, I sat on the floor of the Airbnb I'd been staying in, staring at a blank wall with an open bag beside me and a key in my hand. I'd already packed the essentials, some clothes, my laptop, a photo of my mom, the deed to the car, and a journal I'd started the night she came home smiling, before her face dropped and my world shifted. I kept that journal to remind myself that I didn't go insane, that I wasn't making it all up, that I'd been right all along. But now, I didn't need it anymore. The truth was out. She was out of my life. The FBI had what they needed. And I had something I didn't think I'd ever feel again. Quiet. The real kind. Not the awkward silence between arguments. Not the numbing silence of being ignored. But peace. I moved north, away from the memories, away from the house, away from everything that once felt like home, but had quietly become a cage. I settled in a small town that smelled like pine and wood smoke, where no one knew my name and no one cared what my wife had done. And here's the part that matters. I started over. I took a job at a local tech shop, fixing phones, untangling routers, helping old ladies figure out how to use streaming apps. It was honest. It was quiet. It was enough. I started going on walks again, reading again, cooking for one, but not out of loneliness, out of peace. out of self-respect. And I forgave her. Not all at once. Not entirely. But enough to let go of the weight in my chest. Enough to stop dreaming of confrontation. Enough to stop replaying every lie and every folder. She made her choices. She lived in her secrets. But I chose to survive them. 6 months later, I met someone. She came into the shop needing help with a cracked tablet. Her name was Mira. She wore paint-splattered jeans and carried a sketchbook she wouldn't let anyone else see. We talked for 15 minutes about cloud storage, and somehow it turned into an hour about movies, mountains, and life after disappointment. I didn't tell her everything at first, but when I finally did, she didn't flinch. "You lived through a fire," she said, "and you're still here." We started walking together, then talking more, then sharing books, then dinners. It was slow. No rushing. No fireworks. Just warmth. A calm kind of falling, the kind I thought was lost forever. Now, a year later, I'm writing this from a porch I built myself. The sun's going down behind the trees. Myra's inside, painting by the window with music playing low. There's a dog sleeping at my feet, a rescue, anxious and loyal like I used to be. And I'm okay. Better than okay. I'm free. To anyone reading this, especially if you're stuck, if you're suspicious, if you're scared to trust your own gut, don't let them make you feel crazy for seeing the truth. And when the truth finally shows its face, don't run from it. Walk through it. Then keep walking. You don't know what peace feels like until you've lost everything that was poisoning you.